All right, we've got to select ourselves a nice green pawpaw for tonight's pawpaw salad. We've got this big giant pawpaw tree here. It's probably going to be a bit easier to go in from this side and pick it. I'm trying to take on the yellow dragon fruit. And what we want is a rock hard green pawpaw that's got relatively smooth skin, so it's easier to peel. So I think this one fits the bill, but it doesn't want to come. What about this one? It's pretty good. Watch this, all this sap dripping out. Don't get that on yourself. Alright. Here we are. This pawpaw this size would probably, it's quite a heavy one, so it'd probably be enough for the three of us just to have one serving and no leftovers. But you can make as much as you like. Just try to keep this sap off me. Alrighty, back inside to make it. I'm going to knock up some green pawpaw salad or green papaya salad, depending on what part of the world you come from. It's pawpaw in Australia. So here's the ingredients that we need. 1 green pawpaw, some palm sugar, fish sauce, tamarind puree, peanuts, tomato, lime, garlic and chilies. So that's all our ingredients. What we need to do is peel the pawpaw skin, and then we're going to grate the pawpaw. We're going to chop up the garlic and chilies and hit them in the mortar and pestle. Chop up the tomato, that's going to go in there as well. And we're going to roast the peanuts in the oven until they're slightly browned but not burnt, which can happen very easily if you're not paying enough attention to it. So let's get started, and we'll start peeling the pawpaw first. Actually, we'll chuck the peanuts in the oven first because they'll take the longest, and then we'll peel our pawpaw. Right, so we've just spread our peanuts out on the tray. It's about 1/2 to 2/3 of a cup of peanuts. I've just used whatever was left over in that jar, and we're going to whack them in the oven around 180 to 200 degrees. Spread them out a bit and keep smelling, because if they start to burn, that's the first thing you'll know. They'll smell them. All right, we'll whack that up slightly more. It's nearly 200. There they are. These will take about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll let them cool down on the tray. Our next job is to peel the pawpaw. And you look at one of these green pawpaws, it's super unripe, rock hard. You smell it, that doesn't really smell that appetizing. You think, how could you possibly eat this? But let me tell you, this is one of the most beautiful salads. If you like a good hot spicy salad, this is one of the most beautiful things you'll ever find. We'll grab our little composting bin for our scraps, because everything goes back into the garden. The other thing is with this sap, you'll see quite a bit of sap coming out of this pawpaw. Try to keep this sap off yourself. And when it's getting too much for you, you can just run this pawpaw under the tap, and that'll get rid of that excessive sap. Now this is a very sappy one. I'll give that a hit under the tap. The water seems to stop the sap from coming out of it too badly. Alright. This is why you try to get a nice smooth pawpaw if you can, without all these ridges on it. It makes it a lot harder to peel. And you do need to get the skin off. Not take too much out of it, just the skin. Well, I'm going to finish peeling this pawpaw off camera, so you don't have to suffer through my agonising actions. I'll see you back when it's peeled. Alrighty, back again. So I finally finished off doing the pawpaw with the knife to get it off. I've given it a good rinse, so we've got all that excess sap. I'll tell you what, I've got a cut on my hand and the sap's gone into that, and I really know about it. It's a wonder that you can eat this stuff without it affecting you, but believe me, I've never had any ill effects from eating it. So now what we're going to do is grate it like you'd grate a carrot. And what you don't want to do is go right through into the middle of the pawpaw. So as you can see, this is just the bit, and the stuff that's coming out, it looks exactly like grated carrot, and that's what you want. So we're going to grate all of this Paw Paw in. So you're just getting through to the inside bit of the Paw Paw, so you definitely want to pull up stumps there. Alrighty, so that's our Paw Paw grated. You can see that this is already just starting to turn a little bit orange, even though that was a rock hard unripe Paw Paw, because we're getting to that time of the year when all my Paw Paws start to ripen up. We're actually getting ripe ones. So the higher up in the Paw Paw plant that you pick the Paw Paw, the less ripe it's going to be. So that's another good tip. You get the ones right at the bottom, when you're getting close to this, is the beginning of April, you're more likely to come across one that's nearly ripe, and it's much better to do it with a really unripe Paw Paw. Okay, so we get rid of that into the compost. So the next step is to get your mortar and pestle full of Paw Paw and just give this a bit of a light tapping. Don't have to go crazy with it. You're not trying to crush it up, just bruise it slightly so it helps all the things go through. I've made it without even hitting it when I've forgotten to, and it still comes out fine, but don't go too crazy on it. Just a little bit of light tapping is all that you need for it. Okay, I'd say that's just pretty much enough. Then we'll whack this into our bowl that we're going to serve it in. This is going to make quite a good amount of Paw Paw salad, one bowl full. A little goes a long way because it's a very spicy dish, and it also keeps well for the next day, so there we go. Right, on to our next ingredients. We've got garlic. These are cloves I grew. These are my big Russian garlic, or elephant garlic. This is the stuff I harvested last November out of my garden, and here we are in April, still going strong. Just last month I planted the excess cloves back into the garden for this year's crop, and they'll be, like I said, they'll be ready about November if everything goes all right. It'll take quite a long time to grow. Garlic crushed. Chopped up reasonably finely. We're going to hit it hard with mortar and pestle, so we'll be finishing off any of the crushing work. We don't need to put salt in this dish because we've got a fish sauce going in. That's going to give us our salt. Here's my little red hot Thai chilies. Now this is where you can adjust the flavour. Traditionally this dish is very hot, very spicy, and I'm quite fond of spice. These little bird's eye chilies are red hot. They are super, super hot, so I can put in anywhere from, you could go as low as just 2 chilies and it will still be spicy, but not crazy spicy. Or you could go as high as 6, and then it's like strapping the seatbelt, get the yogurt out. So at the moment this is number 4 going in. I'm not sure how my friend Chrissy, how she's going to go with it, so we'll just settle for 5 and, you know, we'll soon know. Anyway, I can smell those peanuts. I think they're pretty much ready, so I'm going to whip them out of the oven. Peanuts have just changed colour a bit. They've got a little bit darker brown. They're going to keep cooking a little while longer in that hot tray, just sitting out in the open to cool down. So I don't want to burn them. Some of these are starting to get darker brown. We don't want to go over the edge and burn them. So I'll put them aside to cool down. In the meantime, into the mortar goes the chili and garlic. Straight in there. Now be careful when you do this, when you're hitting the chilies, especially red hot crazy chilies like this. It's easy to get a seed fly in your eyes. You could probably have a good excuse to wear safety glasses. I tell you, I have had some very painful moments with chili seeds in my eyes from doing this. But anyway, I've got to keep going. I'm not a quick learner. This we want to get really nice and fine because we want it evenly mixed through the salad. So I really want this almost like a style dish. Not have great big chunks of burning hot chili and lumps of raw garlic hitting you. Beautiful red colour in the mortar. I can do this quicker, but I'll end up just spraying myself in the face with the chili, so I don't really want to do that. Getting close to what we want now. Still see a little bit of texture, but we really have got the bulk of it brushed up. Just rest that on here for a second so I give you a look. So that's what your mixture should look like. Beautiful bright red colour. So next off, what are we going to put in? We shall put in some palm sugar. Now palm sugar is definitely the best sort of sugar for this. You notice I've left this in the plastic in the jar. You see the bit that's out? The humidity in the air will just dissolve this palm sugar, so it really is important to leave it in the plastic, much as your instincts might say get it out of the plastic. So we'll just carve a little bit off. Again, probably if you're Thai, you probably have put a little bit more palm sugar in than I do. They have a lovely balance of salt, sweet, sour, but I'm not a huge fan of things that are really too sweet. But having said that, you do need to have some palm sugar. So there we are, we've just carved off a decent amount in there, and that sugar of course offsets some of the violence from the chilies, and it's a beautiful foil for your fish sauce and your tamarind, which is your sour and your salty and your sweet. And they are of course the essence of Thai cooking. So just to give you a look, that's how much palm sugar's gone in there. Start hitting that up. That'll dissolve pretty quickly into the mix. I do have a written down recipe, but I really just do tend to eyeball things like a lot of cooks. I know it can be a bit frustrating if you want the absolute exact amounts of things, but I'm afraid I can only give you a rough guide, and it really depends. I mean, if you have a big paw paw or a small paw paw, or if you do more than one, it'll change. Now I do like to do this when I've gotten my cherry tomatoes out of the garden, which are super sweet and flavourful, but unfortunately I don't grow them at this time of the year because the fruit fly is horrendous, and I like to keep a no spray policy in my garden to the greatest extent that I possibly can. And I can grow tomatoes plant them from now on and grow them right over the winter and not have the pest issues and get a magnificent harvest of them. So unfortunately I've got to have supermarket tomatoes right now. So in we go. We've got one big tomato. If you're using cherry tomatoes, you can probably put 10 or 12 in. Again, it just depends on how much paw paw you've got. If you've got more paw paw, you put a little bit more tomato. You'll get the feel of it when you make it the first time, and tweak things. Always tweak it. Tweak it the way you like it. If you like it a bit saltier, or if you like it less chili, you probably won't like it too much more chili. I'm putting it on the upper end of the chili scale here. Okay, so you don't go crazy on the tomato. We don't want it into just absolute pulp. We still want some chunky little bits of tomato in there. So again, I'll show you here's roughly the consistency that we're looking at. So it's getting quite liquidy. Next, cap off the rank. Do this tamarind puree. Now these types of brands, the tamarind's quite watery. Some tamarind puree is very, very concentrated. I like these brands because they've just got the flavour of tamarind that I like. There's really a huge difference between different brands of tamarind. So we'll pour in, say, about roughly a tablespoon of tamarind, and this gives a sour taste. The tamarind pod that this comes from is quite naturally sour. Now fish sauce, absolute go-to. Now again, I'm going to put about half a tablespoon of fish sauce, or the rest of this bottle, and finish it off. You'll taste that. This is one of the things when you're tasting it, when you've all mixed up, you think, oh, it needs a little bit more fish sauce, or a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. That's the time to go ahead and do it. Don't go strictly from a recipe and say, this is what the recipe said, this is what I must do. It's always about your personal taste. Okay, I like to chuck in some lime juice. And again, this is another sour component of the dish. In we go with half a lime into the compost bin with you, and we're getting close to all of our wet ingredients being together. Now this is quite wet. Sure, if you can see, you'll see when I pour this into the Paw Paw. This is quite wet. All the stuff off. I'll waste it. Now here we go. So here's just our Paw Paw that we've given a little bit of a crush to, and you can see that that's quite wet. So that's our sauce. It's going in. See, I like to use my fingers and everything. Might not want your guests to see it, but anyway, that's how I cook. Now with a spoon, mix it in. A very good tip is when you finish making this, especially if you are one of these hands-on, literally cooks like I am, make sure you wash your hands really well, because if you rub your eyes and you've got any of that hot chili on them, you'll be in a world of pain. Okay, so here we are. We're getting, that really looks like the consistency that we want. So this wet sauce is just coating all of that Paw Paw, and it's not a huge amount of that mixture that goes in relative to the amount of Paw Paw that you've got, and that's the guts of the salad. The only thing we haven't added yet is the peanuts, and I do this in a bit of a two-step process, so that's about as mixed up as you need to do at the moment. So that's what your salad looks like before we whack the peanuts, and whew, the smell of that is just heavenly. The lime, the fish sauce, the garlic, it's all coming through. It just blends together absolutely superbly. Okay, we'll see if we've got any peanuts cool enough. These peanuts are alright, we won't put too many in at this stage, because the peanuts are going to go a little bit soggy when they sit in the salad for a while, but I do like to have some well crushed right through it, and then we'll use some more peanuts. We'll crush them and keep them aside, and we'll sprinkle them on the top. So here we go. Give these a good old smashing. We're just about there for our salad. It's almost gone a bit like peanut butter, but not quite that far. Use unsalted peanuts. You can use salted peanuts, but remember when you're putting the fish sauce in that you're adding a lot of salt in there. You don't want to make your dish too salty. So the preference, if you can get them, is to just use roasted unsalted peanuts. You can use raw peanuts and roast them right through, but I generally buy roasted unsalted peanuts when I can. And that is it until we serve it up for dinner with a fresh lot of ground peanuts on. So that is pretty much what we're looking at. Here we have green Paw Paw salad, chicken and turmeric skewers, and curry leaves ready to go.